Hello everyone! This hour on Verbling, the next in my Great Short Stories series, we're on Great Short Stories number 20, The Egg by Sherwood Anderson. More about the story in just a minute. We're going to do a little bit of a warm-up to get you used to some of the themes before we read, and then we'll launch right into the main reading and discussion of the story. But first, a little bit about me. I'm Jon-Eric, your Verbling teacher for this hour. I'm an American teacher from New York, hanging out in Lisbon, Portugal to bring you this class. By the way, here are 3 quick rules to help you participate in my class. Don't forget to turn off, tune in, and open up, which means turn off your microphone when you're not speaking so we can keep the classroom quiet. Tune in to the new words that we're learning when you are speaking so I can give you feedback and corrections. And last, open up to your classmates. Relax and have fun. We're all here to learn, and this is a safe and respectful place to practice your English. So, that's a little bit about me. I'm going to share the link and the text with you on my screen. Give me just a second to open my document. Here it is. Give me just a second to open my document first, my version of the document, and we'll get started. By the way, while we're waiting to do that, let me just say a quick welcome back to Luo. Hi Luo, how are you?
Thank you, John. I'm great today.
Hello, Luo?
Yeah, can you hear
Good.
me? Okay.
What's special about today, Luo?
Nothing.
Today you're great.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're just great.
Just great. Yeah.
Just great.
No problem. It's
Fantastic.
great.
Let's say hello to Anna. Anna, are you great today as well?
Hi, yes.
You're great today as well? Everyone is great today.
Yes.
I'm great too. Anna, where are you from?
I'm from Barcelona, Spain.
You're from Barcelona. Very good. Nice to have you. So, here's what we'll do. First, I'll see if I can give you a copy of the story. If you haven't opened it, you can see it here. There you go, in the chat window. I don't know why it just copied twice, but anyway, that's it. And I'll give you a second version in the group chat there. But I'm also going to share my screen here. And there we go. So if you want, you can follow along on the screen, or you can open it up in your computer. I don't know if I can make it any bigger. Let's see. A little bit. Okay, whoops. The problem is that it's a little hard to control the document on my screen. Okay, hopefully you can see that okay. Before we read this story, we need to think about something, a theme, which may come up. It's not explicitly in part of the story. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. We have to decide that for ourselves. But it is part of what this author is all about. So what I'm going to do, when you click the link, you should see this graphic so you know where we are. But what I'm going to do is share another image with you right now, and I'm going to ask you to tell me how it makes you feel. What do you think about when you see this image? Give me just a second because I have to open it first. Hold on just a minute. One moment. One moment. Please feel free to talk amongst yourselves while I'm opening the document. One moment, please. All right. Okay. Do I have it? Yes. So I got to go to my folder. Let's go to the verb folder. Great short stories. Almost there, everyone. Hang on. Sherwood Anderson. And I want to go to my links. And here we go. This is what I want. Okay, I got it. So I'm going to share this on my screen. I want you to take a look at this image and I want you to tell me how it makes you feel or what it brings to mind. So I'm going to share my browser with you. I want you to take a look here. It's a little bit slow, but it'll be there. No, that's not what I want. Yeah, this is what I want. Okay, sorry for the delay. So, can you see the image okay? I know it's a little bit blurry. It's a little small.
I see.
All right.
Yes.
Whoops, didn't want to do that. Hold on. What happened? Why did that happen? Hold on. There we go. So first, I want you to tell me if you recognize it or if it seems familiar. Have you seen something like this any place before?
Yes, I've seen some of this kind of painting in the cathedral.
Have you seen anything like this before?
In cathedral, some cathedrals.
Yes? No?
Can you hear me?
Luo? Are you there?
Yeah. Yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can everyone
I hear
hear me?
you.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay. I've seen some this kind of
Okay,
painting.
in a cathedral. Right.
Cathedral. Yeah, cathedral.
Uh-huh. Not cathedral, but yes, I hear you.
Sorry, John. Maybe there is some time lag, which is
Okay.
conversation. Your answer
Hang
is late.
Okay, let me leave the hangout and return. Maybe that seems to fix it usually.
I hear
okay?
the Luo's voice in time, but John's maybe.
Okay, I'm going to leave and come back. I'll be right back. 1 second, okay? I'll be right back in 1 second.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me now? Can everyone hear me?
Yes,
Yes, I can.
Yes.
All right, so for some reason, lately I have to keep signing out and signing in to get everything to work. I don't know what's going on, but okay, give me just 1 second to get my name back on the screen. What is this? No, I don't want the YouTube app. What is that? Hold on. That's not what I want. I want this. Sorry for the delay. I don't know what's going on with the Hangouts. I think it's because we have to download the YouTube app before we begin. I'm not really sure what the problem is. Okay, teacher. Nope. Verbing teacher. There we go. Okay, so let's pick it up where we left off. We were here. Okay, Luo, you said, wait, I gotta fix my screen here. 1 second. There we go. So Luo, you said you might see this in a cathedral, right?
Yes.
Cathedral, not cathedral, but cathedral. The second syllable, cathedral. Say that again.
Cathedral.
That's it. Very good, very good. And Yuki, what does this bring to mind when you see it? I know it's a little hard to see the details, but what does it bring to mind?
I think it altar inside the church, and no, maybe not altar.
Like an wait, like an altar inside of a church. An altar.
It's like an altar inside the church.
Right.
I see the I see the queen. Stick. How it's called?
Scepter. Scepter.
A scepter. Yes, scepter. Yeah. Scepter on her hand.
Right.
And on left hand she holds the what is this?
She is holding.
She is holding. Snake.
I can't exactly see it. I can't really see it actually.
Yes, I also can't see what exactly she is holding on her right hand. But she is sitting on the lion.
Right. What do you think that means?
Maybe it means that she have a magnificent. She is a magnificent ruler of the world.
So the lion is a symbol then.
Yes, it's a symbol of her authority, and she conquered the most powerful things in the world. So she's a real king of the world. And on her left side there is a sheep, maybe.
Yeah, it could be. It looks like it looks like a sheep. So there's a kind of a balance.
Sheep is a symbol of kindness and generosity, maybe.
Or that she's like a shepherd, and her subjects follow her.
A shepherd.
Right?
Yes, it's a symbol of Christianism, maybe.
Yep. If you've ever read C.S. Lewis, you know that the lion is the one who saves everyone in Narnia, right? So, people have picked up on the symbolism that you would find in these frescoes and things like that. Anna, you're in a part of the world where you might see something like this. Do you see things like this in cathedrals in Barcelona or in that area? Have you seen something like this before?
Well, similar, yes, but I think it's not religious in a cathedral because there aren't scents.
There's sense. What do you mean by sense? You mean meaning?
Religious personal.
So you're talking about things you've seen in Barcelona, or you're talking about this picture?
This picture in Barcelona, and you can see Jesus.
Okay. So more Christian images.
Yes.
Right.
But
okay.
I think that this woman, it's not religious.
No. She seems to be a queen.
Yes.
You're right. But she's got some religious symbols around her, like angels and things like that. Okay, very good. Is this what's inside of the Sagrada Familia? Do you have frescoes like this inside?
I don't know. I never been in Sagrada Familia.
You've never been inside?
No.
Never? I can't believe it. The last time I was there, it was being renovated, and I think we couldn't get inside. I can't remember what happened. I don't think I've been inside either. I've just seen it from the outside. Okay, I wanted you to look at that because I wanted you to think about some themes. So here's what I'd like you to think about. That picture, let me just see if I can quickly give you a little bit more information here. That picture is a kind of fresco, a kind of image, that you might find in a cathedral or something like that. But it's a specific kind. You have arabesques, right? That's a pattern, a design that's related to Islamic art. Moresques, related to Moorish art. This one is called a grotesque. Do you know that word grotesque, everyone? Grotesque.
Yes.
What does grotesque mean to you, Yuki? Grotesque.
Grotesque, it reminds me the very awful existence. It's afraid of me.
Right. It scares me.
It scares me.
Right. It scares me. Well, that is a grotesque. And I'm mentioning this because as you read the story, I want you to think about the meaning of grotesque. The reason I say this is because Sherwood Anderson wrote a book, one that I don't think was actually published, or if it was published, the name was changed. I don't remember. It was called The Book of the Grotesque, but it wasn't religious like this painting, but it was a portrait of characters, and he had a kind of philosophy, at least in the book, called the philosophy of the grotesque. Here's a little definition to think about too. The word grotesque comes from the Latin root, which is the same root as the word grotto. Do you know grotto? Does that sound familiar? Grtto? Grotto is a cave, a grotto, a cave.
Oh.
Right? So,
yes, I know.
So, the original meaning of grotesque was a style of Roman art, ancient Roman art, and then it kind of spread in the Renaissance, or not before, a little bit before, in the 14th century, and the rooms were sort of like caves, I guess you could say. So a definition here: the caves were in fact rooms and corridors of the Domus Aurea, the unfinished palace complex started by the Emperor Nero after the Great Fire of Rome in AD 64, which had become overgrown and buried. So it has this idea of a style of art that was found kind of in what we might call a cave or something like that, but it's about this style, this ornate, extravagant, ostentatious style.
I heard that in ancient time, darkness is what people most people are afraid of most of all. So so cave is one of the very very awful things for humankind. That's why this word occurred.
Absolutely, and when we think of grotesque, it also brings to mind maybe not just, we don't think of Roman art so much, we think of Gothic art, you know, Gothic forms and Gothic buildings, like Notre Dame, the gargoyles on the side of the building, on the side of the cathedral. So shapes and things you might see in the dark, you know, things that might scare you. The carnival, the Mexican Day of the Dead, Halloween, these things kind of come to mind. So all these sort of things, that shapes and things you might find in the dark that you can't, that you half imagine. I want you to think about different connotations of grotesque as we read this story, because maybe Sherwood Anderson's philosophy of the grotesque might be a good key to understanding this story that we're going to read, even though it's from a different a different story, one that he's quite famous for, more famous than the other one I was mentioning. But we should keep it in mind. All right? So what we're going to do, we're going to get started. As you know, everyone, well, Anne, what happened to Anne? I was just about to talk to Anne and she left. As you know, Carmen is our traditional story starter, but Carmen is not here today. In her place, I nominate Yuki to begin our story, if that's okay. I'm going to share my screen, and I'll just stop if you have questions, or maybe to ask a comprehension question or two, just so that we're picking up the themes of the story as we go along. Okay? Are we ready? Are we ready, everyone?
Yes, we are ready. I'm ready.
All right. Yuki, can you start us off? Uh-oh, I don't hear Yuki. Luo, do you hear Yuki?
Can you hear
No.
me?
Yes.
Now I hear you.
Yes.
Sorry. The Egg by Sherwood Anderson. Sherwood?
That's right, Sherwood.
Right? My father was, I'm sure, intended by nature to be careful, kindly man.
Wait. Cheerful.
Cheerful, sorry. By nature to be a cheerful, kindly man. Until he was 34 years old, he worked as a farmhand for a man named Thomas Butterworth, whose place lay near the town of Bidwell, Ohio. He had then a horse of his own, and on Saturday evening drove into town to spend a few hours in social intercourse with other farmhands. In town, he drank several glasses of beer and stood about in Ben's Head's saloon. Correct?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Crowded on Saturday evenings with visiting farmhands. Songs are sung and glasses slumped on the bar. At 10 o'clock, father drove home alone. At 10 o'clock, father drove home alone on a lonely country road. Made him his house comfortable for
His
the night.
house?
Made his horse comfortable for the night, and himself went to bed, quite happy in his position in life. He had at that time no portion of trying to rise in the world. It
Okay,
was
just repeat these words. Cheerful.
cheerful.
This next word is something that you won't see in a modern story. We don't really speak like this anymore. Social intercourse. Intercourse. Right. We say it so fast that you don't even hear the T. You can say intercourse, but when we say it fast, it sounds almost like inner.
Yes.
So social intercourse.
Intercourse.
And thumped. Thumped.
Thumped.
Do you know what that means? Thumped.
Thumped means hitting. Yeah.
Yeah. The sound of hitting.
With knuckle. Yeah.
Well, with anything, yeah.
With anything.
But the point is, it's the sound. A thump. This is a thump. That's a thump.
Yes.
Also, this word,
this
last. That's right. This last word is important because English has words where we drop out a syllable, and this is an example. We don't say comfortable. We say comfort. No, but we don't say that. No, listen to me. Comfortable.
Comfortable.
That's it. So the fort disappears. But there's a whole class of words where we drop out a syllable. This is maybe the most high frequency of all those words. So it's a good one to remember. You'll see other examples. But anyway, comfortable.
Comfortable.
That's it. Okay, let me just ask a quick question. In the first paragraph, we get a lot of information. So let's see if we can answer a few basic questions. Who, when, what, where, why, and how. Right? Let's start with where. Let's start with when, actually. We talked about the grotesque. Is this set in ancient Rome? No. So where and when do you think this story is taking place? So far, in the first paragraph, where and when?
the story is taking place in the farm. Main character here it is said about the protagonist's father. He's a farmhand.
Right. So, Luo, based on what we read so far, when do you think this takes place?
In this author's childhood.
In the author's childhood. That's interesting. What makes you say that? What makes you say that?
Because this his father, this author's father, my father was, yeah.
So this is like a memory.
Yes.
Okay.
Memory of history.
Is this? But this probably doesn't take place in. Where are you again? Are you in? I can't remember where you are. You're in Hong Kong, aren't you?
China. Yeah.
You're in mainland China.
Yeah, mainland China. Yes.
Ah, okay. So this probably doesn't take place in mainland China, though, right? This story.
Why?
This story probably does not take place in China, where you are, right?
Yes, of course, because this town is near the Bidwell, Ohio, is in the United States.
And do you think this takes place today? Is this I know we're remembering, but do you think this is a recent memory or an old memory?
Old memory. I think it's old memory.
Old memory. Do you know? Maybe in the end of the class I'll show you another picture. Do you know the famous painting, the American Gothic? Have you heard of that?
Gothic?
The American Gothic. It's a very famous painting in the 20th century. The American.
Sorry,
Gothic.
I don't know. What is Gothic?
Gothic is a style of art that has to do with
Gothic.
sort of,
I see. Gothic.
Right?
Yeah, I see.
And I'm mentioning that because in light of what we talked about, this idea of the grotesque, right? And all the meanings that come to mind when you think of grotesque. Well, something else comes to mind for me. So let me just share one more image with you, then we'll continue reading. The famous painting, the American Gothic. Hang on just a second. Let's see if I can get my screen sharing to work.
You mean the Gothic novel, yeah?
No, not the novel, the painting.
Yeah.
Let me show you.
Painting.
This is one of the famous paintings in 20th century American painting. Have you seen this before?
Yes, I know this.
So this is the American Gothic. It's been copied, a million times. But when I'm reading the story, it's the first thing that comes to mind because it's got the word Gothic in the title, but it's not what we would expect when we think about Gothic. This is a portrait of people living in a farm somewhere. You've got the farmer, and he's got the hoe, to turn the soil. And notice how he's looking forward at us. The wife is behind him. She looks kind of subservient or something. She's looking at him. And they're perfectly framed by the house. There's this triangle in the middle of the frame. So it does kind of remind you of the grotesque that we saw before because it's kind of stylized. But anyway, this is the image that comes to mind as we start to read the story. So I'll just share that with you because it's a bit of American culture. Anyway, let's get back to the story. We can talk more about that in a minute. Let me get my... hold on. Okay. So... Okay, Luo, why don't you continue? And we'll just go around the room from there.
Okay. It was in the spring of his 35th year that father married my mother. Then a country school teacher. And in the following spring, I came wriggling and crying into the world. Something happened. Oh, so it's before he born, and it's not in author's childhood. Something happened to the two people. they became ambitious. The American passion for getting up in the world took possession of them.
What do you think getting up means in this paragraph? What do you think getting up means?
They became ambitious, and the American passion for getting up in the world. Getting up in the world. Getting up means to
Well, normally it means to wake up in the morning, but here does it mean wake up?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Getting up in the world to awake.
Well,
yes, awake to
awaken. Well, I would say the key is this American passion. Have you heard of the American dream?
Yes,
Do you know that
I've heard of
expression, the
American Dream.
American dream? Right.
Yes.
So
If I guess American Dream is everyone have equal chances to get rich or
exactly.
get some. Yeah.
Exactly. To get rich, to be successful. Everyone's got their fair shot in the land of opportunity. That's the myth of the American dream. Maybe it's more myth than reality, but that's what he's talking about here. So getting up in the world means moving up the ladder, moving up to a new social class, maybe getting rich or maybe being successful. So, in other words, when he was wriggling and crying, in other words, when he was born, something happened to the parents. They changed. They became ambitious. The American dream took over. Right? Keep going, Luo. One more paragraph, and then we'll just keep going around the room from there.
Yes, it may have been that mother was responsible. Being a school teacher, she had no doubt read books and magazines. She had, I presume, read of how Garfield, Lincoln, and other Americans rose from poverty to fame and greatness, and as I lay beside her, in the days of her lying in, she may have dreamed that I would someday rule men and cities. At any rate, she induced the father to give up his place as a farmer hand, sell his horse, and embark on an independent enterprise of his own. She was a tall, silent woman, with a long nose and troubled grey eyes. For herself she wanted nothing. For father and my mother she was
For father and myself.
Yes, for father and myself she was incurably ambitious.
Incurably ambitious.
Incurably ambitious.
Absolutely. When we think of something incurable, it's not usually ambition. What do we think of as incurable normally?
Normally, it's impossible to cure. Yeah.
What might be impossible to cure, for example?
For example, cancer.
Exactly, right.
Many cancer.
Some horrible disease.
Yes.
So we can't ignore that as we read. Her ambition is being described like a cancer. It's a pretty serious thing to say. And notice this description. She was a tall, silent woman with a long nose and troubled gray eyes. Well, if you think back to my picture of the American Gothic, it kind of looks like that woman, doesn't it? A tall, silent woman with a long nose and troubled gray eyes. The woman in the picture is looking at the husband. She's behind him. She's silent. Maybe she's hiding something. So, something about the American dream sounds like it's a bit described by the author, at least, a bit like a disease. It's not what we might expect when we think about the American dream. So we'll just keep it in mind.
But here, mother has no ambition for her themselves for herself. Only he has a big hope for his husband, for her husband and son.
Absolutely. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Uh, I think
I mean,
I think
to
many mother at this time have a same feeling. Mm.
at what time? What time do you think it is?
I mean the in the first of 20th century.
In the first or in the beginning?
Sorry, in the beginning of
In
20 in the beginning of 20th century.
Absolutely. She couldn't have ambition because she had less rights and less opportunities. So her ambition had to be for the other members of her family, for the males in the family. So she probably had no choice, especially because she wasn't in a major city. Sounds like they're in the middle of a farm somewhere. So it might even be more difficult than being in an urban setting. So but the problem here, and so I agree with you about that, she probably didn't have another choice. All right, Yuki, why don't you keep going to the bottom of the page? You can see where it says the first venture.
Okay. The first venture into which the two people went turned out badly. Then rented 10 ac- acres
Acres.
of poor stony land on Griggs Road, 8 miles from Bidwell, and launched into chicken raising. I grew into boyhood on the place and got my first impressions on life there. From the beginning, they were impressions of disaster, and if in my turn I'm a gloomy man, in, inclined to see the darker side of life. I attribute it to the fact that what should have been for me the happy, joyous days of childhood were spent on chicken farm.
So, gloomy. That kind of reminds me of grotesque, doesn't it?
Yes,
Kind of reminds you of
he looks
grotesque
like me.
things.
Yes,
Like you. Oh
yes.
no, did you grow up on a chicken
I
farm?
also inclined to see the darker side of the life. But
You
my
didn't grow.
wife is opposite. My
Oh, okay.
my wife is optimist. I am pessimist.
Does she have great ambition for you?
Yes, she. When I'm depressed, she always cheer me.
Ah, okay. Uh, well, I just say gloomy because it kind of goes back to our theme of grotesque. Uh, I think we might look at the characters in this and decide if we think they're grotesque in some way or not, and what's making them that way, if so. Okay. Keep going, Yuki.
One university in such matters can
Unversed.
one unversed in such matters can have no notion of many and tragic things that can happen to a chicken. It is born out of an egg, lives for a few weeks as a tiny fluffy thing such as you will see pictured on Easter cards, then becomes hideously naked, eats quantities of corn and meal bought by a sweat of your father's brow, gets disease called pig, col- cholera, cholera,
Cholera.
co-
Cholera.
cholera, cholera, and other names, stand looking with stupid ears, stupid eyes at the sun, becomes sick and dies. A few
Do you remember do you remember the Visconti film and the Thomas Mann novel Death in Venice, Yuki?
and dying in Venice. Yeah, no,
Death in Venice.
death in Venice. Yes, I know.
Do you remember the end of the movie where Dirk Bogarde is on the beach? He's
Yes.
looking at the boy, and he's wearing makeup, and it starts to run, and he's sweating.
Yes, 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 yes.
I mention that because he's got cholera. There's a cholera epidemic in Venice in the story, and and here we're talking about chickens getting cholera. So you can visualize what cholera is. Earlier, we saw that ambition is like a disease. And now, in the next paragraph, we're looking at something that should be the exact opposite of disease, birth. And yet, we immediately start talking about diseases, cholera, pip, and other names. It stands with stupid eyes looking at the sun and becomes sick and dies. Right away, we get these horrible, grotesque images right from the egg. So something to keep in mind.
I see. Okay. A few hens and now and then a rooster, intended to serve God's mysterious ends, struggles through the maturity. The hens lay eggs out of which come other chickens and dreadful cycle in thus made complete. It is all unbelievably complex. Most philosophers must have been raised on chicken farms. One hopes for so much from a chicken, and is so dreadfully disillusioned.
Disillusioned.
Disillusioned. Disillusioned. Small chickens just sailing out on the journey of life look so bright and alert, and they are in fact so dreadfully stupid. They are so much like people, they mix one up in one's judgment of life. If disease does not kill them, they wait until your expectations are thoroughly aroused, and then walk under the wheels of a wagon to go squashed and dead back to their maker. Vermin, vermin infest their youth, and fortunes must be spent on curative powders. In later life, I have seen how the literature how literature have been built up on the subject of fortunes to be made out of the raising of chickens. It is intended to be read by gods who have just eaten of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It is hopeful literature, and declares that much may eaten of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It is hopeful literature, and declares that much may be done by simple ambitious people who own a few hens. Do not be led astray by it. It was not written for you. Go hunt for gold on the frozen hills of Alaska. Put your faith in the honesty of politicians. Believe if you will that the world is deadly. The world is daily growing better, and that good will triumph over evil. But do not read.
Do not read.
Do not read and believe that literature that is written concerning the hen. It was written for you.
It was not written for you.
It was not written for you.
Wow, what a paragraph.
Difficult.
What a paragraph.
Very
What
conceptual things.
what is the comparison between the life of a chicken and the life of you and me? What do you think he's trying to say here?
He want to say that the life of hens is awful. It depends on the fortune.
Fortune? You mean like luck? What do you mean by
Yes.
fortune?
Yes, I mean the luck.
Okay.
It all of life for hens is written by God.
And let me ask Luo, look at that last line. It was not written for you. Why do you think he says that? It was not written for you, Luo. He's talking about the earlier thing about this strange line. Do not read and believe the literature that is written concerning the hen. I don't know what literature he's talking about. Literature about hens. I don't know what he's talking about. But it's not written for you. What do you think he's trying to say here?
Me too. Me too. I didn't get it. It's too much information that I cannot think through it out.
Absolutely, it is. It is, but I want you to make an educated guess. What do you think he's alluding to? Because remember, earlier he says, I have seen how a literature has been built up on the subject of fortunes to be made out of raising of chickens. So he's talking about something quite literal. It's not a metaphor here. But then he seems to go into a kind of metaphor later. But in the beginning, it's quite literal. I think he means it literally. I have seen how a literature, how people have written about making money, subject of fortunes, making money out of chicken raising, chicken farming. And then later on he goes on to say, don't believe it. Do not read and believe the literature that is written concerning the hen, about the world is growing better and good will triumph over evil. He seems to be mixing things up between something written for commercial purposes and literature written to improve the soul. You know, he seems to be mixing these details together. So what do you make of that last line, Luo? If you had to make an educated guess, what do you think he's getting at?
Last night, it was not written for you.
Yeah, this literature.
Yeah, literature. It means those guys are successful, and it's not for you. Yeah, you cannot get rich. You don't have to. You don't have to have dream. You should get. You should get. How can I say? You should get to Earth. Yeah.
You should get what? I couldn't hear the word. You should get
to Earth. Down to the Earth.
Down to Earth.
That's Earth.
Earth.
Get real.
Get real. Okay. The expression is to be down to earth. To be down to earth. That usually means you're a simple person. Yeah, it's because it says, don't be led astray by literature. Was not sin for you. It's a hopeful literature that declares that much may be done with simple ambition. So don't be ambitious. It's really a strange moment in the story, actually, if you think about it. I'm just going to take us to the bottom of the page, and then we're probably going to have to stop there for today. Let me just see where the bottom of the page. Where is my bottom of my page? Hold on. You know what? I don't have pages here. Oh, that's weird. All right, let me just do this next section, and we're probably going to have to stop there. I, however, digress. My tale does not primarily concern itself with the hen. If correctly told, it will center on the egg. For 10 years, my father and mother struggled to make our chicken farm pay, and then they gave up on that struggle and began another. They moved into the town of Bidwell, Ohio, and embarked in the restaurant business. After 10 years of worry with incubators that did not hatch, with tiny and in their own way lovely balls of fluff that passed on into semi-naked pullerhood, and from that into dead henhood, we threw all aside, packing our belongings into a wagon and drove down Griggs Road toward Bidwell, a tiny caravan of hope, looking for a new place from which to start on our upward journey through life. We must have been a sad-looking lot, not, I fancy, unlike refugees fleeing from a battlefield. Mother and I walked in the road. The wagon that contained our goods had been borrowed for the day from Mr. Albert Griggs, a neighbor. Out of its sides stuck the legs of cheap chairs, and at the back of a pile of beds, and at the back, so it's weird, at the back of should be a pile of beds, tables, and boxes filled with kitchen utensils was a crate of live chickens. On top of that, the baby carriage in which I had been wheeled about in my infancy. Hang on just a second. Why we stuck to the baby carriage, I don't know. It was unlikely other children would be born, and the wheels were broken. People who have few possessions cling tightly to those they have. This is one of the facts that makes life so discouraging. So, what's the deal with the baby carriage? Why he doesn't know why they stuck to the baby carriage. What do you think about that? Is it just because they didn't have a lot of possessions? And also, it's broken. What's the purpose of it? What do you think? Does the baby carriage remind you of anything else we've been talking about so far? Where do babies come from? Babies. Okay, I think, Yuki, we need to have this talk. Do you know where babies come from?
Babies come from
That's
egg,
right.
Eggs. Yes.
I can't help but notice a parallel between this description of the chicken and the egg and the description of the nymph and his broken baby carriage, and the fact that the paragraph ends with the word discouraging. You don't normally think of infancy as being discouraging, and the baby carriage should have these fond memories. It should be a happy time. So I can't help but think that there's some correlation there. Maybe I'm wrong, though. So why do you think they stuck to the baby carriage? Why did they save their broken baby carriage? What do you think? Just out of curiosity. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious.
They want to use this carriage for something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's still useful. I mean, the fact that it's a broken baby carriage reminds me of what happens when a chicken hatches. The broken eggshells remain behind. You know, it just kind of reminds me of the egg that the author came from, in a way, like symbolic in some way. Just a hunch. I don't know. Just a feeling. Let's see. We have time for a little bit more. Yuki, why don't you continue? We have maybe time for one paragraph each, and then we have to stop. Why don't you take this one?
Father rode on top of the wagon. He was then bald-headed man of 45, a little fat, and from long association with mother and the chickens, he had become habitually silent and discouraged. All during our 10 years on the chicken farm, he had worked as a laborer on neighboring farms and most of the money he had earned had been spent for remedies to cure chicken diseases. On Wilmar's White Wonder cholera cure, or Professor Bidlow's egg producer, or some other preparations that mother found advertised in the in the po- in the poultry papers. There was
Poultry papers is chicken papers.
yes, poultry papers. There were two little patches of hair on father's head, just above his ears. And I, I remember that as a child, I used to seek looking at him when he had gone to sleep in the chair before the stove on Sunday afternoons in the winter. I had at that time already begun to read books and have notions of my own, and the broad path that led over the top of his head was, I fancied, something like broad road, such a road as Caesar uh, might have made on which to lead his legions out of Rome.
Legions.
Ah,
Legions. Groups of people. Legions.
yes, Romans. Yeah?
Yeah.
Legions out of Rome and into the wonders of an unknown world. That the tufts of hair that grew above father's ear were, I thought, like forests. I fell into half-sleeping, half-walking state and dreamed I was a tiny thing going along the road into far beautiful place where there were no chicken farms and where life was happy. Life was a happy, endless affair.
Wait. Life was a happy what?
Life was a happy, eggless. Sorry, no, not. Life was a happy, eggless affair.
Life was a happy, eggless affair. I hope that life is a happy, eggless affair for the two of you, because we have to stop at this point.
Yeah.
Okay? I want you to, on your own, think about those two symbolic passages. Maybe we can start there in the next class. The whole parallel between the chicken and the human being, and this very unusual description of his father's bald head leading the legions out of Rome. Think about that. We'll be back for the next class on today's Thursday. So Tuesday, okay, Tuesday at the same time, and maybe we can start with there. What do you think about this symbolism? Think about that. I'll be back in just a moment for our business class, working on key expressions for how to motivate. Bye for now, everyone. See you in just a minute. Bye for now.
Bye.
See you.
You.